So good afternoon. We're continuing with our community conversations, franchise industry conversations. And this week and last week, we've been speaking with franchisors, franchise leadership. But one of the most important components to the franchise relationship naturally is also franchisees. And they're in the battlefield right now. And so this afternoon, we're going to have a conversation with Mike Kelley. Mike, in addition to being a dad, he's a Sylvan Learning franchisee in Minnesota. I think Mike's been operating a Sylvan for 2 years. And Mike, I appreciate you spending time with us and, and the insights you're about to share.
Well, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. And I appreciate the time. We're all in this together, and it's been unifying in that regard for sure.
Yeah. And, before we went live, we were talking about thank God families well, right? And I think you had expressed, which was compelling, was, hey, things are settling down now. The emotions are settling down this week and positivity's coming in. So Mike, you're in the front lines. Tell us what you're seeing, what your perspective is, and really anything you could share.
Yeah, and really I've approached this, from a leadership and a CEO standpoint of view. I have an obligation to take care of three parties here. And those three parties are my staff or employees, our customers, and also our vendors and partners. And those are the three that I have an obligation to take care of. And, sure, we all have stuff going on our family and we got to take care of our family. But when you're a business owner and you're a leader, those are the other three parties that you really have to take care of. And they're all a little bit different, but it's something that you have to balance and manage. So I spend every hour of my day, ever since this all started, really focusing on those three parties. And the staff and employees are the big one because they're looking for someone to help manage their way through this, and they're looking for vision, and it's day by day, week by week. And so I have to be able to think ahead and help kind of plan out how things are going to look, and I got to kind of manage emotions a little bit. And then I just have to, even if I'm nervous or worried inside, I have to present, hey, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there, we're going to come out the other side of it. And that's been really calming for people on that front. So the last week, it was the mud of it. We were kind of in the mud, and it's just spending a lot of time on the phone, doing video, and just talking to people about what we're going through and how we're going to get out of it, and presenting plans that we're really confident in. So that's what I've spent a lot of the time doing the past few weeks. And it's focusing on that portion of the group, our employees and our staff. And then the other side of it is, I have vendors and partners to worry about. All the vendors that we do business with, whether it's banking or landlords or ordering and supplies, it's keeping them updated on what our plan is and our plan of action, and letting them know that they're just as valuable as our other parties. So I've been spending time putting that together. And then, last but certainly not least is our customers and the communities that we serve. I have 8 locations in the Minneapolis area. We employ close to 200 people, and that means we serve the entire Minneapolis and St. Paul area for the most part. And we're talking a huge area of people, many, many families that we service. And it's communication. It's presenting to them about, hey, here's what we're doing. We're also adapting to this time. Yes, we're getting on the virtual wagon, but we're Sylvan Learning. We're at the forefront of it. And here's how we're doing it. And here's how it's going to add value to you. And then I have to think ahead and say, okay, once we're out of this, yes, in-center tutoring and our education is just as valuable. So here's how we're going to transition from the virtual side to back getting into the centers. And that's kind of the three parties that I've been weathering and where I've been taking my time. And it's been, again, last week it was kind of in the mud, and now this week everyone's on a positive train and track forward.
You feel like you've had the opportunity to digest what's going on as a human or as a small business owner? Is it so like nonstop that it's hard to take a breath and say, wow, I can't believe what's happening in this world?
Yeah, and that's a great point. And that's where I was probably last week and the week before. It was just all consuming. And I'm someone that loves that though. And I believe that especially during these times, I have to put in even more hours. So I have no issue waking up early and then burning the midnight oil. And it may not even be working. It may just be letting this all consume in my mind, whether it's my chats with staff, what's going on in the news, just thinking about strategy, just being able to vent. all that taking it in has gotten me to the point where I can just make good decisions, take a breath, remain calm. What is it that we're trying to do? So this week and going forward, I feel like we just have this amazingly positive attitude, not just with me, but with my team, customers, and vendors even. So it's been good.
So we've been talking with a lot of franchise executives about this term mindset, and it's progressed into two categories. You have just the positive mindset, which I would love to hear how you're staying there, because it seems like you were able to get there this week. And then the opposite side of the positive mindset is the mindset punch that, you know, when this affects someone close to us or 1 degree separated for us and makes it real, then all of a sudden it's hard because we get kind of pushed off the tracks, and as leaders we got to pull ourselves back onto them. Maybe some comments on those two things.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that has really helped me stay on that track or even on that positive mindset is scaling this back and saying, okay, this is at the core. What we're trying to do is it's about the families. It's about the families and the students that we serve. And what I've done is I've stepped out and I've actually started calling out to some of our families and our students and just having conversations with them about, you know, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about your child's education, his progress, his sessions with us? What are you envisioning? What are you wanting? What are you seeing? So I've been just diving deep into the customer side of it more now than ever, and trying to just get feedback from families and parents on what they're wanting and seeing as we progress through this and going forward. And that's helped me remain positive, just kind of hearing where they're at. And, you know, it's refreshing to me to hop on a phone with a parent and a family and have them, you know, for instance, I had a mom that I talked to a couple days ago, and she just broke down over the phone because it was like, she's so beside herself because I have my kids at home. They're not in school. They're not going back to school in Minnesota until the beginning of May. And she's like, sure, I can give them some stuff to do, but what about their true education and them falling behind? And I feel like he was just getting caught up and now he's going to fall behind again. And, you know, she's legitimately leaning on what is it that, you know, we can do. And being able to just and by the way, it's a common conversation that I've been having with parents. And so being able to tell them, hey, we're adapting to this and here's how we do it. And we did it fast via the virtual side, and then we'll roll eventually back into the centers. Them being able to hear that from me or an owner of my team has just presented them this amazing confidence. Like, okay, they got our back. Sylvan's got our back. And that for me has really shifted my mind to positivity. Like, all right, the plans I'm making with my team, all these hours I'm spending on the phone and talking and strategy, parents and families are buying into, and they're seeing the vision. And that keeps me positive and motivated without a doubt.
Mike, it's what, and I don't even just hear it. I mean, I could see it as you're speaking. I mean, you talk about leadership and then vision, planning, communication. And as we're speaking, I mean, I could see the weight when you mention, I mean, in addition to your family, the focus on staff, employees, customers, and vendors, right? So where do you want to see in an ideal world? You know, I keep referring to, you know, internally for my team and my firm, I right now I feel like I'm working nonstop, reaching out to our clients because I want to build a landing pad so we have a safe landing in all this. So what are you envisioning as you see this working out and working through it? What in your mind do you want to see happen? How are you projecting this out in your mind?
Yeah, and that's something I think about every hour, to be honest, especially, you know, I find myself at night, probably around 7 when I'm winding down with some work and just letting thoughts go through my head. 7 to midnight, I'm thinking about that. And I feel really good about it because I feel like it has to be done in phases, no different than what's going on in the grand scheme of things with the coronavirus. But this, for me, is going to go down in phases. And I've had some team calls today, and we just talked about doing this in phases. And phases meaning, for us, for the month of April, we are just going to keep things very light and lean. Is where we're looking at. And lean mean in terms of what we're going to require out of staff, what we're going to require out of our families and parents, and just keep things light and make sure that people are comfortable with our pace and transition slowly back into full on again in May is our goal. So in Minnesota, for instance, schools are back May 4th is the plan as of now. Now, again, that could change and we'll tweak it if it does. But my mindset is run lean and keep people focused in on phases. So phase 1 is April, and then phase 2 is to go full on again in May, because it's it's important to me to be able to make sure our staff are employed fully each week, and then we're able to obviously meet our obligations for our families and our vendors. So that's my plan in our phases.
As you think back through, obviously your decision to become a franchise owner with Sylvan now ends up being a fascinating situation to be in as a brand, because you end up being an essential business in the way that you're able to pivot and operate in a time of need. Whereas some businesses, the restaurant industry has been just hammered as a whole. Like, as you reflect back on your decision to buy this, it probably wasn't true then, but does that change the value of the brand for you as a franchise owner now?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because when I was first looking at this business, it was, hey, there's a million ways to make money, but I want to have something where it's not just about money, it's about something that I enjoy and have a passion for, and truly helping people. That's why I originally got onto Sylvan. It's, when I was in the beginning meeting with families and seeing that, hey, we legitimately help these families and children that are stuck or want help, that was amazing to me. And then it's transitioned into, fast forward 2 years from now and building upon all that. And now we are even more of an essential. And, I just drafted an email to my team last night, and I used that word essential. We are an essential part of this. And not only currently, but even over the next 6 to 9 months, the essential of it is going to be even more crucial. And we're already seeing that. I've already heard the stress and worry from parents, like, he was just getting caught up and now he's going to be further behind. And what are we going to do in 3 months or 6 months? And so those are discussions that we're now having, is, we're going to be even more essential now more than ever. And for me, it's even more rewarding now to be a part of the Sylvan family. And, there's business has been in business for over 40 years. We're obviously doing something right. And it's a feel good thing. And those are the kind of things that also keep me positive during this. Beyond the profit and money side of things, you need something in your heart to feel good, a little bit of that, especially during these times. And for me, it's a part of it. So it's been good, to be honest.
Mike, tapping into that positivity, what are some of the touch points that Sylvan, as a franchise company, things they're doing that matter to you right now, whether big or small, the things that are creating some positivity in that relationship with Sylvan?
Yeah, and if you're talking in regards to Sylvan as a company and even as a corporate office, it's, and the team aspect is, because I've dealt with some other franchises before, some franchisors before, so I've always told even the Sylvan team this, like, the office and support that they have, and just being able to access people and access resources is amazing. We've all had to pivot so fast for this situation, and for them to be able to launch something like coming out with virtual and Corona assistance and support page and package right away, and be able to dive in and say, hey, here are your resources about things that you can do to launch, what to do with your families, how to do the technology piece. And to be able to do that within a week's time, and with all these franchises that we have, is unbelievable. And the support it's awesome. I can hop on the phone with a marketing person, within an hour. And I'm not talking just their standard. I'm talking someone that's, up with the leadership team. And I can bounce questions and ideas off of them. And I got a text from one of the corporate executives the other night. We're talking 8 o'clock at night, just reaching out to see, hey, how are things going? Is there anything that you need? And to me, that stuff's cool. And that's why I signed up for this, is even before I signed on and I met the team, I got that feeling. And you always hope it pans out, and it just ended up that it did. So this is why I'm proud to be with them. They've shown that it's a good team, to be honest.
We've talked with a lot of franchisors about the other side of this. And one truth is, not one human being at least in our country, has any predictability about when we're past this, when there's 0 cases. So we don't know when this happens. But when it happens, franchise brands are going to be remembered based on the way that they treated their franchisees. And it's refreshing to hear that, because I'm sure there are some franchisees that are out there that are struggling right now and don't know if they're going to be able to keep the lights on. There are some that the franchisor is not stepping up and saying, here's how we can put scaffolding and But now more than ever, franchisees need the franchisor to really show that all that support we sold you in the sales process, it's real.
Yep. And I'm telling you, I've done it with multiple franchisors, even if I didn't end up buying with them. And there's just times where it doesn't match up. And I'm glad you use that word matching up, because it's one thing to say it, but you have to show it and do it. And they have, and it sounds cheesy to say it that way, but they really have. They've told me they were this, and they've really matched up. So bravo to them.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's fear, right? After you buy something or purchase, are they going to care the next day, right? And I think every franchisor, like if I'm Sylvan, this is exactly what I want to hear. And also, I think for franchisors, Mike, what blows me away is, people could talk about leadership, but the precise words you're using and your focus is demonstrating that.
Sure.
And so it gets to, the power of franchising when you couple a good franchisor that cares after you sign with the right franchisee. So that feels good to see.
Well, and I agree with that statement. And look, I have another business that's non-franchise. It's a private business. And to be able to lean on someone that has resources, I wish I could do that in my other business, but I don't have that. I have to do it myself. Just to be able to have that support, it's not even about how much is the fee at that point. It's, hey, thank God you're here. It's someone I can lean on.
What advice do you have for franchisees that are out there that obviously might be struggling with the mindset to get this right, or advice you would say for them to have conversations with the franchisor about? What advice for franchisees in general would you have about weathering this awful storm?
Yeah, and two things jump to mind there, and the things that I even use with other friends of mine or even my team members. But the two things I would say is, don't ever be afraid to ask for support. Hound the franchise until you find the right person or the right resource. And then when you do, lean on them hard to say, hey, how can we get creative? What you're told me, maybe what you laid out for steps 1, 2, 3 just didn't work for me, or I'm not seeing it. Can someone talk to me about how can we get more creative for my setup or my business? I understand that you're laying it out in a structured format, but you know what? That didn't work. Let's get creative. Can you talk that out with me? And I found that that's just, even little creative points can come out of it. And before you know it, that works for you and your team. And just continue to refine that creative and tweaking process. I find works really well. And I'm always a big fan of hounding people. There's sometimes it may not be the right person, but maybe they know they can lead you down a path to someone that is. So that'd be my input there.
I think, Mike, what I'm taking away from me, because it's interesting, I think I could see it in what you're working nonstop. And for myself too, I think it feels good because we stay focused. A big takeaway, I love your reference to just focusing on everything in phases, which reminds me, I don't even know where I heard it, or it's, in terms of, farmers that are harvesting corn by hand, right? They would throw a stick, so many feet ahead, and they work to that stick, and then they throw it again. And I think, what a big takeaway for me is your focus on phases. And so what's the next phase for you? Is it a week from now? Is it today and the next 5 days?
Yeah, and that's literally what we just determined today. So for us, it's the first phase goes from literally today until April 13th, and
Okay.
that's phase 1. Yeah, so it's basically a 2-week phase, and then we have a second phase, which is going to be from April 13th until the end of April, and then the final phase will start the beginning of May right away. And look, the phases is a big deal, not only for me as a leader because I can do things in bite size and really really refine and focus, but even staff and vendors and families, they love taking things in stride and in progress. And when you lay it out in phases, people are like, okay, I got it. I'm not making this big gap or this big jump, or I can't envision that. And so the phases has really helped everyone, I've noticed, and it's been a good thing for sure.
When you micro those phases down to even how you approach this, I would love just some opinions on, especially on the entrepreneurial side, because you own another business. You're entrepreneurial.
Yep.
Do you look at cash flow first of how do I save cash? Do you say I got to put humans first? How do I save my staff? Do you say I got to put customers first, which will drive the other ones? Like, how did you balance that? And if you micro the phases down to week 1 and week 2, like, where does cash flow, customers, employees, and just anything else that would throw in there? How did you prioritize that?
Yeah, great question. It goes back to those 3 groups that I really have an obligation to, the staff, the vendors, and our customers. And how I prioritized it was staff first, and then our customers, and then our vendors. And, I think everyone's, balancing out that decision. And the reality is what I've decided to do is lean on our vendors, like our landlords and our supply people, and just say, look, I'm going to need to push out some invoices and payments and cash for the next 90 days. I promise I'll square up with you, but I'm going to need you to work with me in those 90 days. 90% of them are willing to work and they'll help you. And then that just works backwards, because then that allows me to then keep staff on as much as I can and keep the machine going, so to say, which in turns allows us to still service our customers. So we've been, everyone's looking at that balance, but that's the balance that we took. And the reality is especially in the Sylvan side, we're pretty heavy overhead on things like rent and operations and supplies. So if I can, have them defer and work with us on that side of it, it allows me to keep the staff happy and rolling along, which is, for me, I made the decision, the philosophy that's just going to be not only better short term, but in the long run. So that's what we've been steaming down, and it's going to pan out. I know it. I can just feel it in my gut that these next 30, 60, 90 days, all this is going to just start coming to fruition. And that's part of what I love about the vision side of things. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, to be honest.
I mean, it's quite warming to hear from someone, because at the end of the day, your front lines are going to be different than the franchisor. Your front lines are going to be different than the vendors that are out there. And just the mindset that you're approaching here, because you're the first franchise owner that we've talked to, as we're trying to build this community of franchise folks in all walks of life on how are they dealing with this. I got to say, I am personally grateful for talking to you about this, because even me as a business owner, I got to look at other people and find the shoulders that I can lean on and say, all right, if Mike's taking this in stride and you start going through the process and the phases to try to get out of this thing, then, everybody should try to have that right mindset going into this.
Well, it's so easy to hop on the negative train. All my time in business, whether you're going through a situation like this or you're going through little micro situations that we all go through, it's so easy to hop on the negative train. And I read a quote a couple weeks back, and it was just something simple about how we can really control if we want to be positive and remain positive. And it's actually really difficult. It's an easy line to read, but it's really difficult to exercise. But I've really worked on that just organically almost. And then I read that line and it really brought it all back to me. It was like, yes, that really is true. I can control if I want to be a positive person and remain positive and exude that. And I've started using that on calls and in messages, and I can tell it really does kind of, it outlays with my team, and it outlays even with the people around me. Like, okay, but we're going to make it through this. This is, it's a short speed bump. Let's just remain positive. Let's roll with this, and we'll do this together. So, yeah.
Appreciate it. So, Charles, final thoughts?
Yeah, Mike, I don't know if it's because I'm looking at the sign of execution behind you, right? But I will say this, for me coming in, for our community, it's a function of mindset and growth. And I'm always looking for the right mindset. And it's no accident, I don't think, your positive energy, because I think you are executing in terms of leadership, vision, planning, and those phases. So tremendous credit to you. And I know personally, in addition to me and Nick, whoever watches this video, franchisor or franchisee, I mean, it's inspiring, and I think you're going to be helping a lot of people. So thank you very much on that.
It means a lot. That's awesome. Very much.
Mike, any final thoughts from you on weathering the storm?
No, I'm going to have to bring it back to just the positivity train. And, we can all choose to just hop on that positivity train. We're all going to get those negative thoughts that creep in, and the what ifs and the helpless and what are we going to do? And I caution people that short-term thinking. I'm a visionary at heart and an entrepreneur at heart. So I'm, training my mind to think ahead and envision ahead. And I would just encourage us all to do that a little bit and just do it with some positivity. And it's like when someone tells you to smile, that other person's going to smile, and it's just contagious. Right. So that's what I want to leave. Let's just keep it positive.
Right. I mean, absolutely what we need to end our day. And I hope everybody that's watching is feeling the same way. I mean, just the glimpse into someone that's on the front lines and saying, let's get through this. Let's jump on the positivity train. We greatly appreciate it. And we appreciate you spend some time with us too.
Thanks for the time, gentlemen. I appreciate it very much. Let me know.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck.